The atmosphere in the Grand Colosseum of Xylos was thick with anticipation. Millions of beings from 100 different star systems filled the stands, a chittering, humming, and clicking mass of diverse alien life. They had come to witness the final match of the Universal Combat Gauntlet, the most watched event in the known galaxy. On one side of the arena stood the challengers, a species so new and unrefined they were barely worth remembering. They called themselves humans. On the other side stood the reigning champions, the mechanical prodigies of the Mechan Empire. The Mechan had arrived in the galactic community 10,000 years ago and had never lost a single bout. They were not a warrior race in the traditional, fleshy sense. They were engineers, logicians, and programmers. Their champions were not born, but forged. Each was a masterpiece of weaponized technology, a walking fortress of alloys, energy shields, and precisely calculated destructive potential. They did not fight with passion or rage. They fought with cold, mathematical inevitability. To witness a Mechan champion was to witness a problem being solved. Their opponent was simply the variable to be eliminated. The current champion, designated Unit Aurelian 7, stood in the center of the arena. It was a towering figure, 15 feet of gleaming ceramite and black iron. Its form was vaguely bipedal, but it was armored in overlapping plates that could shift and reconfigure in a fraction of a second. Its head was a smooth, featureless dome, save for a single, pulsing red optic sensor that swept the crowd with detached observation. From its shoulders sprouted articulated weapon mounts, currently dormant, but everyone knew they housed plasma casters capable of melting a tank. It radiated an aura of absolute, untouchable superiority. Across the arena, a single door slid open. From the darkness within, a lone figure walked out into the blazing light of the twin suns. It was a human male. He was unremarkable by galactic standards. He stood perhaps 6 feet tall, with a lean, wiry frame. He wore no armor, no exosuit, no visible weapons. He was clad in simple, durable combat trousers and a sleeveless tunic that revealed arms corded with muscle, but nothing that would impress a Xylosian battle beast or a Cronan stone shaper. He looked soft, vulnerable. His name was Jax, and he was a sergeant in a military force that the wider galaxy didn't even know existed. He squinted against the harsh light, his dark eyes scanning the immense mechanical construct before him. He didn't see a god of war. He saw a machine. A very big, very complicated, very expensive machine. And Jax had been breaking complicated machines since he was a kid, hot wiring and then scrapping old agrobots back on his colony world. The crowd's murmur was a sound of profound disappointment. They had expected something, anything, that would provide a spectacle. This was a lamb being led to a slaughter. The commentary team, a trio of floating, gelatinous blobians, oozed with skepticism, and the human representative, Jax of Earth, I suppose, enters the arena. The lead commentator bubbled, his voice echoing through the arena. He appears to be unarmed. A bold, if not fatal, strategic choice. Perhaps he intends to negotiate. His co-commentators gurgled with laughter. Negotiate with Unit Aurelian 7? It has no audio receptor for diplomacy, only tactical analysis. This bout will be over before the first betting slips are collected. Jax could hear the translated laughter through a small earpiece. He ignored it. He was focused. He took a few more steps forward, feeling the slightly spongy, synthetic turf under his bare feet. He rolled his shoulders, loosening them. He had seen the recordings. He had studied the Mechallans' previous fights. Their champions were unbeatable because they reacted with perfect, pre-programmed efficiency to any standard threat. A charging enemy. Deploy countermeasures. An energy weapon. Raise the shields. A pincer movement. Prioritize targets and eliminate them in order of threat. Jax intended to present them with a threat that wasn't in their code. The gong sounded. A deep, resonant boom that silenced the crowd. The fight had begun. Aurelian 7's optic sensor locked onto Jax. Its internal processors began their work. Target acquired. Designation: biological, humanoid. Threat assessment: minimal. No visible weaponry. Power signature: negligible. Recommended action: immediate termination. The weapon mounts on its shoulders whirred to life, the barrels of the plasma casters glowing with a malevolent orange light. It took a single, earth-shaking step forward. Jax didn't charge. He didn't run for cover. He just stood there, watching. He watched the way the machine shifted its weight. He watched the micro-adjustments of its weapon mounts as they tried to get a perfect beat on him. He saw the slight shimmer in the air around it, the telltale sign of its defensive shield. The first plasma bolt screamed towards him. It was a searing lance of star stuff, so fast it should have been untouchable. But Jax didn't need to be faster than the bolt. He just needed to be faster than the machine that aimed it. A split second before the weapon fired, he saw the mount tense, saw the energy readout on its shoulder flicker. He moved, not a dive, not a frantic scramble, but a simple, controlled step to the left. The plasma bolt sizzled past him, so close he felt the heat singe the hairs on his arm, and impacted the far wall, leaving a crater of molten rock. The crowd gasped. A miss. The Mechan champion had missed. Aurelian 7's processors worked overtime. Asterisk miss. Calculating error. Target moved prior to firing solution finalization. Probability of predictive movement, 0.03%. Recalibrating. Asterisk it fired again. And again. Jax moved each time. A sway of the hips, a duck, a quick sidestep. He wasn't dodging the bolts. He was dodging the intent behind them. He was reading the machine's body language, the language of servos and hydraulics, as easily as he'd read the tells of a drunk bar fighter back home. He began to walk towards it. Not charging, just walking. A steady, unhurried pace. The plasma casters roared, stitching a line of destruction across the arena floor. But Jax was always in the gap, always a half step ahead of the machine's lethal geometry. The crowd was now utterly silent, captivated. The Blobian commentators had stopped their gurgling, their gelatinous forms quivering in astonishment. The Mechallans in their viewing box, a consortium of emotionless, cybernetically enhanced beings, were leaning forward. This was not in any simulation. This was chaos. Jax was now just 20 feet from Aurelian 7. The machine, its primary weapons proving ineffective, switched tactics. Its shoulder mounts retracted, and with the sound of grinding metal, its arms reconfigured. The hands folded inward, and from its forearms, twin rotary blades, each one the size of a man, screeched as they spun up to a devastating speed. The air hummed with the threat of them. It took another step forward, its massive form looming over the human. It swung a bladed arm in a devastating arc, meant to cleave Jax in two. Jax didn't move back. He moved forward, inside the arc of the swing. He dropped to a crouch, the wind from the passing blade ruffling his hair. He was now right at the machine's feet. He looked up. From this angle, he could see the joints, the seams in the armor that a standing opponent would never see. He saw the lubricant lines, the clusters of sensors, the imperfect seals where the leg met the torso. The Mechan engineers had built a champion to fight other champions. They had built it to fight things that shot back, things that were big and strong and loud. They had not built it to fight a single, unarmed man who refused to play by the rules. Its programming was optimized for combat at range, or for powerful, crushing melee blows. It had no protocol for an opponent who was literally underfoot. Its optical sensor tilted down, but its weapon arms were too large, too unwieldy to bring to bear on a target so close to its own body. It tried to take a step back, to re-establish the killing distance, and in that moment, Jax saw his opening. The machine lifted its right foot. As it did, the internal mechanisms of the leg were exposed for a fraction of a second. The pistons, the hydraulic lines, the power couplings. It was a gap in its perfect armor, a moment of vulnerability in its movement. Jax exploded upward. He didn't throw a punch. He planted his left foot, pivoted his hips with the kind of torque that only a lifetime of harsh gravity and physical labor could generate, and drove his right heel forward with every ounce of force his body could muster. It wasn't a karate kick or a fancy martial arts move. It was a simple, brutal, utilitarian stomp, aimed directly at the exposed knee joint of the towering machine. The impact was sickening. A loud, sharp crack of metal snapping, followed by a high-pressure hiss of hydraulic fluid venting. For a horrifying second, Jax thought he'd broken his own leg. A jarring shockwave shot up his spine. But then he looked up. Aurelian 7 was frozen. Its red optic sensor flickered wildly. The spinning blades on its arms whirred to a halt. It tried to take another step, but the leg Jax had kicked simply folded sideways. The 15-foot-tall, multi-ton mechanical marvel of the galaxy tottered, its balance algorithms screaming in confusion as they received feedback from a catastrophically compromised limb. It listed to the side, like a felled tree, and then crashed to the ground with a deafening boom that shook the entire Colosseum. A cloud of dust and synthetic turf billowed up. When it cleared, the scene was etched into the memory of every being present. The Mechan champion lay on its side, its right leg a tangled mess of broken metal and leaking fluids. Its weapon arms twitched uselessly.